Thank you. I'm going to make this jar of honey disappear by the end of lunch. That's as good as I can do. I'm going to talk about opportunities with urban agriculture, and some things may look or sound like problems, but the great thing about urban agriculture is that it has lots of solutions and its potential to really make incredible transformations in the reality that we're living in. Many of the youth that I work with live in intolerable realities, poverty and violence and so forth, and the response to that typically is to escape through drugs and alcohol. And I think the most fundamental thing we teach youth is that with good ideas, with cooperation and teamwork and hard work, we can transform the realities we're living in. The picture that we just had up on the screen here is in North Toledo, one of the most impoverished areas in Toledo, where youth are building their own college campus and training center. This will happen this fall. So there's really incredible transformative potential with youth. To give general context, I'm just going to give 3 points. Toledo, just the inner city of Toledo, for instance, spends over $900 million a year on food. And that doesn't vary a whole lot because you can't really opt out of food. It's something that everybody has to do. So there's an incredible economic development potential there. Unfortunately, well over 90% of that money leaves our community. And this is like this with cities throughout the Great Lakes. Almost 3 out of 4 youth were jobless this summer. So 16 to 19-year-olds. So we have many, many youth who are excluded from the formal workplace, from the mainstream economy. And cities like Toledo and Detroit and Cleveland and Akron have thousands and thousands of vacant lots. Now that's the way to state it as a problem. The way to talk about it as a solution is we have lots of available farmland, we have lots of energetic young people, and we have a huge untapped market to sell local food. So by urban agriculture, I'm talking about the production of food, fuel, and fiber. In this picture, the youth have just completed building an aquaculture station where they're raising tilapia fish. And youth are the most energetic and dynamic members of our community. And agricultural communities throughout history have always valued young people because they can get a lot of work done, particularly young boys. And another fabulous aspect of urban agriculture is that youth can be active agents in restoring their communities. So often young people today hear about the problems, how many acres of rainforest are being deforested, all these global environmental problems, and that's very disempowering. When they plant trees and flowers and fruits and vegetables, they can make immediate changes right where they live, and the central message is they can transform their environment. The other thing it does is that it teaches youth that decay is a process, and it's something that is a platform for future regeneration. It's not a destination. It's not a fate. So youth come into desolate, vacant lots and turn them into something beautiful in the course of a season. There's also a constant dialogue about nutrition and farming. It's not just what ends up on your plate. It's how do you feed the soil, to feed the plant, to feed the people. If you've raised chickens before, you know it's all about nutrition. A 1,600-page chicken health book is simply what nutritional deficiencies does your chicken have. Our medical system often talks about what pharmaceutical deficiencies do people have, but we're not that biologically different than a chicken. Nutrition is essential to our health. Our brain is 2% of our body weight, and it uses 20% of our energy. So if we were to imagine this as 2 diets with 2 different kids, maybe 2 twins, the one on the left with hamburgers and french fries and Cheese Whiz is going to have a baseline for health and alertness and so forth that's going to fall far short of their sibling. It really, really does matter. Much of the depression and lack of ability to focus and so forth can be derived right from our dinner plate. Urban agriculture also builds character. Everything you do on a farm is a matter of life and death. The youth raising this tilapia here really have to be serious about the job they're doing. They really need to focus in on what they're doing. There are no unimportant tasks for youth. There's also issues of responsibility and nurturing. If I were going to make a generalized statement about teenage boys, or the teenage boys I work with, it's that they're dysfunctionally macho. They live in tough neighborhoods, so intimidating whatever's in front of them is often the technique. And when I took a number of my youth to a goat farm in central Ohio to learn about it, I was really amazed to see these former gang members nurturing goats and how much they positively responded to it. And urban agriculture teaches kids to become positive parents. We reintroduced chickens and other small livestock to Toledo a couple of years ago, and we thought this was all about food. And as soon as we started working with it, we realized that this is a way to teach kids how to have the finesse to be a good parent. And it also really empowers youth because nobody in the city knew anything at all about small livestock. So when the kids all started asking me questions about what do we do with the chicken in this situation and that situation, I said, guys, I grew up on video games and basketball. I don't know anything about this. And our youth quickly became the experts and actually began giving workshops throughout the city. And this is a great way to empower youth who have been marginalized in many ways. But it's not just what the youth do for the animals and what the plants and so forth, the youth caring for the plants and animals. The plants and animals are excellent role models for the kids. Chickens don't have existential crises. Bees, unless they're drones, are hard workers and work in very highly organized work environments. So there's a lot of calmness that the youth gain from being around creatures that are very certain about what they're going to do next. They don't have all the scattered thoughts that humans have. I find chickens a lot more pleasant than people, to be perfectly honest. The other thing it does is urban agriculture creates new wealth. The combination of soil and sun and water and inspiration results in a new product. It's new wealth, and there's $900 million just in Toledo's inner city to purchase that. So it's not just shuffling around what we already have. It's creating new wealth right where we live. And there's just general entrepreneurial habits that the kids learn from it. How to start a project from scratch and bring it all the way to conclusion and end up with a tangible product that you market. That's really, really powerful. There are very low barriers to entry in doing urban agriculture. You need some seeds and a little bit of land, and you can start making money. And the youth learn by solving real problems. Sabran in this slide has just made a solar panel to make sure that his chicken's water doesn't freeze and that the vent opens. And at the end of this project, doing the electrical wiring, he told me that he needed to learn algebra. And I don't know how many teenagers you've heard say at age 17, I need to learn algebra. But the real problem suddenly made the abstract important. So the mathematical stuff that he slept through for years, had no interest in, suddenly came alive to him when he was trying to solve a real problem. And our communities have far too many problems to have kids do make-believe problems all day when they're real problems in their community that they can solve and learn from. They told me not to push the button a whole lot. This also gets kids ready to the ever-changing world of technology by creating a habit of lifelong learning, good observation skills. And urban agriculture and gardening in general show us that, like chess, it's very simple to learn, but the strategies are infinite. So you can come and learn something every day. You can continue to deepen your understanding. And above all else, gardening and urban agriculture teach kids to focus. We extracted honey yesterday, and the youth built the bee boxes in the spring, inserted the bees, and then 4 or 5 months later, they're extracting honey. The other thing you should know about beekeeping is the only instantaneous cure for attention deficit. There is no daydreaming when you've got your hands in a beehive. And believe it or not, many youth are very taken with this. We only had one bee sting last year, and it was our professional beekeeper. There's also the habit of organizing complex phenomenon. When you're gardening, you're dealing with changing weather conditions, rainfall, pest infestation, consumer tastes, and harvest ripeness. Kids learn how to focus, and they learn how to organize all this into systems, whether it's the name of the plants, how to space the plants. All these different habits are going to help them in whatever endeavor they go into. Now, you probably thought that the idea that chickens can be role models was going to be the strangest point I was going to make. But I think this suggestion might seem even a little stranger. Perhaps. I'm going to suggest that many of our buildings are devitalizing. And to simplify contemporary architecture, I would say that it's the manipulation of tension or the manipulation of stress in defiance of gravity. So when we ask why the ceiling doesn't fall on it, there were some very smart architects who figured out how to manipulate all this weight and all this tension and move it around to the structural elements. So yeah, don't worry, the ceiling's not going to fall. I'm not that good a magician. So how to manipulate all this stress in a way to have a building that's stable. And I would suggest that this tension that we put into our buildings resonates into our muscles, resonates into our skeletal structure, and this combined with the lack of natural light, the fluorescent light, sometimes the lack of fresh air, can make us very, very lethargic when we're in buildings. And I'm sure everyone has had the experience of being in a classroom or a workplace and feeling really, really lethargic and thinking, I'm going to go home and take a nap, and then as soon as you get outside, you're invigorated. The kids I work with in the job training program are two different people, totally different people, when they're in the building with us at our Friday meetings in the juvenile court and when they're outside in the garden. When they're in the garden, they're carefree, they're relaxed, they're happy. When they get inside, they're tense and so forth. And I think this has a lot to do with the architecture we have. So people in general are better, happier people when they're outdoors, and they're more receptive to learning. And I'll conclude on this slide. Mrs. Kidd is a 99-year-old, lives in Toledo. She's my hero, an amazing person, has lived an incredible life, and she helped us start a garden in Toledo Central City. She was 94 when I took the picture, so don't be impressed. She's nothing that impressive. And she started this garden with kids, and we perhaps, largely because of technology, have the greatest generational rift we've ever had. Youth today think differently, they communicate differently than elders. And when we get them together on a common project, like a garden, we can really bridge those gaps. And the adults can appreciate the frantic, high-energy youth, and the kids can appreciate the calm wisdom of the adults. So it's a wonderful, wonderful way to put people together. Thank you so much.